Hello friends, it's good to see you again. On today's episode of Black Magic Craft, I'm going to try something a little bit different. One of the biggest challenges for me running this channel has always been finding a way to put out quality tutorial videos nearly as often as I would like to, and as often as you guys would probably like to see. The way in which I film my videos and edit them takes a significant amount of time and effort. And that's not something that's very conducive to my current life. So that usually means that my episodes come out much farther apart than I would like, every 3 to 4 weeks. So I've been trying to find a way that I can give you guys more content without sacrificing that quality. So this is what I've come up with. Basically, the idea is that I will continue to make the tutorial videos like I always have, and put them out every 3 to 4 weeks like I always have, but I'd like to give you guys episodes in between those, maybe every week or every 2 weeks. And basically I have to find a way to do that that requires less editing and possibly less builds on camera. So what I've come up with is the idea of picking certain projects that I'm working on or have recently completed that are either too big or too complicated to condense into a streamlined tutorial. And either while I'm working on it or once I've finished, I will just let the webcam roll and I will talk about it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, depends on the project. I can give you guys an inside view of different techniques, let you know my thoughts on the different things I did during the build, what I would do differently, that sort of thing. For example, my styrofoam buildings, people always ask me if I can make a tutorial on that. But the reality is that those are big projects. They take many hours of work and they require a lot of different techniques that I can't condense into a 10-minute tutorial that is as clear and concise as the ones I usually output are. So this format is a way that I can still show you guys some of those techniques and talk about those things. So this is the first attempt. I'm gonna need you guys to let me know if it's something that you like or don't like. Keep in mind, it will not replace my typical tutorials. This is additional content. So if you like it, let me know. And more importantly, if you like it, let me know what subjects you want me to do these on. If there's builds that you see me doing on the Black Magic Craft Facebook page and you want to know something about one of those projects, let me know in the comments and I'll try to do one of these videos on that. If there's a particular technique or project that is small, that doesn't require a full tutorial and you just want to see my take on it, let me know and I'll see if I can do one of these videos. That's basically the deal. We're going into some uncharted territory, but I'm hopeful that this will allow me to give you guys more content more often. So let's zoom on into the table and let's talk about these damn ruins. First, we're gonna start out here with the most recent project I've done, which is a set of a couple ruins. It's something I've been needing for my game for quite a while. I never really got around to building them, and in the last 2 weeks I decided it was time to do it. I made 3 different ruins, and each one of them I used slightly different techniques, kind of getting a feel for what I like best and what turned out best and where the perfect ratio of effort and finished product balance kind of lies. And I think I found that. Each one of them is also based differently using slightly different techniques, so I'll talk about that as well. So this one here is the first one that I built. I'll just give you a bit of a look around. when I made this one, I went to my kind of default method of grabbing some pink insulation foam, and I first used my Proxon table to mill a bunch of pieces to a thickness that I wanted. This is not a thickness that you can buy off the shelf. I actually made this out of 1.5" material. So basically I cut a bunch of strips this way out of 1.5", and then I turned it and I ran it through the hot wire table vertically, and I made a bunch of these 1 centimeter thick panels. So when I did this one, how I approached it was 4 panels like this. I traced out a 1 centimeter grid and the offset brick. Same as I did my tiles, cut with a knife, run the pen through to give the bevel and texture with tinfoil. And then once I had the brick pattern carved out, I notched it in like every second one so that they would interlock. So basically on a piece like this brick is part of this panel, this brick is part of this is the, so they actually interlocked like that, which I thought was really cool. It locked in really, it made it very strong, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. Once I had the full panels, then I kind of just cut along and chopped out sections. Like for example, this here is actually one piece that got cut out of this, which was kind of nice because it accurately represents the part of the wall that fell in. So I think that method was really effective for creating something that looked good, had nice definition in the mortar lines, and was strong. That being said, I found it to be kind of an unpleasant and boring and excruciating task to do. I find it really, after about the first panel, just like dungeon tiles, it gets tiresome to be doing the grid work because it's a multi-stage thing and it gets really repetitive. First you got to trace out all your nicks on each side for your measurements, then cut on those lines, then trace out again the pattern this way, mark guidelines, then cut, then do the whole thing over again with pen. And then once you finally feel like you're done, you gotta flip it over and do the other side. That's the one thing with ruins compared to my other buildings. My other buildings don't have interiors. The roofs don't lift off, the whole thing lifts off the base, and I'm just left with the floor. So I only have to worry about decorating the outside. With the ruins, you see the whole thing. So essentially for me, it's like twice as much work as building a normal finished building. So I got really tired of it. And then when I got to the floor, I had the idea of, I started thinking, okay, I'm sick of drawing grids. I want to do something with individual stones. So what I did with that was, now this isn't the same size, but I basically took some styrofoam and I milled a stick out of it that was whatever size this ends up being, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch maybe. Right, so I was left with basically a rod. I sanded each edge to kind of round it, and then just with a knife, I cut a bunch of slivers, like a bunch of individual tiles. And that was way quicker. I ran this through on the Proxon table. Making a perfect stick like this takes about 15 seconds. And then cutting the slices really doesn't take that long. You don't have to worry about them being the same thickness because variance in depth makes for a nice look. So that part was really quick. And then this is on a piece of foam core base. I'm going to talk about the bases separately later, but I basically put some white glue on and I just started gluing down the tiles. And that seems like it would be more tedious than drawing it, but it was a lot faster. And I found it more fun because you actually felt like you were building something rather than just drawing lines over and over again. So once that was done, I did my bricks and my sand, rubble, and whatever. And I'll talk about the bases separately at the end. So moving on, I then said to myself, okay, I liked doing the individual bricks. So what if I built the whole thing out of individual bricks? And this was the second one that I built. Come on, focus on it. Is that focusing? Yeah, it's not as focused as I would like, but so let's get a look on this one. A little bit of a different paint job. I'm trying to be a bit more adventurous with my colors. Not quite where I'd like to be yet with painting, but I'm getting there. So anyway, I wanted to build this one out of individual bricks. So what I did, similar to the floor, is I spent not that long, maybe probably less than 20 minutes, ripping a bunch of 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter sticks on the proxen table. I made, I don't know how many I made, maybe 20 or 30, like more than I needed. I was left with these. Same thing again, I just very quickly with a nail file hit the edges of this. I first thought I was going to be really clever, and I hot glued a nail file to my cutting thing, and I thought I could just kind of run quickly, but I found they bend too much. So I just, once hit them with the nail file, and then I cut them into individual bricks. And to get them the same size, I made a little jig. Now, this jig is more complicated than it needs to be because I had this kind of hope and dream that I could make a jig where I could feed it, it hits a stop, I cut it, and then it falls, the brick falls through into a bucket or something to hold them all. After making it, I realized there's no way that's going to happen because the styrofoam is staticky and it just doesn't work. So in the future, I can make a much simpler jig without the rails and the hole. But basically, it's a channel that the foam rests in, and I can slide it forward till it hits the stop, cut, knock it out, cut, knock it out, cut, knock it out. And I found it a lot less annoying to actually do. I was able to do a whole bunch of them very quickly, and I don't know, I watched a movie, it was fine. It was a lot less mind-numbing than drawing the lines on the styrofoam. The nice thing too is that I could just make a batch of them, and when I kind of got tired of making the bricks, I could start build for a while, then when I needed more bricks, cut a few more, and then keep going. And it kind of broke up the monotony of it. So basically, I had some bricks, and I just started stacking them. I just used white glue to hold them together. When I got to things like these windows, I drew out a little template on paper, cut it out, used a glue stick to glue it onto some of these foam panels, cut it out on the proxen table, and then I was left with these window cutouts. And it was fun because I could just kind of build and do different things. It was nice too because when I was doing this one, I essentially wasted a bunch of time drawing out the full grid, then cutting out. This, I only built what was there, right? So I could stop once I liked the look of it. For the floor, I did something similar to this one, but I tried to be a little bit more adventurous with it, and I did like some strips in different sizes, and it's okay. I'm a little disappointed with the way it came out after paint, but I think that's more to do with my paint job than anything else. I think the sculpt on this one was much better than the paint really shows, but I was trying to get away from just the regular gray paint job with it. So that's that one. I was pretty happy with it. The only thing I didn't like is once it was built and dried, these walls felt very wobbly. So I tried something. I took some acrylic latex caulking and I really thinned it down and I painted all over it, hoping that it would kind of make a skin that would hold everything tight. I think that was a waste of time and it actually killed some detail. And I should have just gone with my regular routine of Mod Podge and then later the Miniwax, because the acrylic coating didn't do much to help it. But then I did a coat of Mod Podge and then I did a second coat of Mod Podge mixed with black paint, just like I did in my pillar video. And after that, it was hard. These individually glued bricks, this is, I would say, just as strong as this one, if not stronger. This one that's out of one individual board, because it has the slices, it is actually weak on those. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. It is actually weak on those cuts. You could snap it pretty easily if you want to. This one, I mean, yeah, you could break it, but it's stiffer. I feel safe with this. If a player or anyone just kind of like picks it up and manhandles it, then yeah, that's fine. Oh, you can see the sweet bottom. It's Halloween cardstock. So again, I'll talk about the bases later. So then I decided to make one more, and I was getting kind of fatigued on doing the whole buildings, and I wanted to do just some scatter corners, things that look more ruined. And I think on this one is where I finally really perfected the technique, and I think this is where I will be, how I'll be doing them in the future. And it's just a perfection of this technique. Basically same thing, cut out these strips, beveled the edges, but then before I cut them into bricks, I rolled them with tin foil so that they would get some pattern. That was one thing I wasn't happy about with this, is that they were smoother than I wanted. And because it was glued together before the Mod Podge, I didn't feel comfortable texturing it. It was too brittle. So this one I did some texture on each of the strips. It added another step, but it really didn't take that long. And when I got to this one, I started being more intentionally like haphazard and lazy with the stacking of the bricks so that I could get some kind of real wonky lines and stuff. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Here again, I just did a template and cut this out. I'm much happier with this shape than this rounded one. This rounded one I don't really like. I think this has that nice castle look to it. And as I stacked it, broke some pieces in half, and I really, really like the way this one turned out. For the floor, I did it similar to the first one where I cut some squares and then I drew in smaller brickwork, and I just glued that to the bottom, did my rubble, and yeah, I'm really happy with the way that turned out. So now the bases. Each one of these has a slightly different base, and each one of them I'd say has advantages and disadvantages, and I'm not 100% sure which one I will stick with in the future. It'll depend on the situation, I think. So the first one, this base, it is just a piece of dollar store foam core. I ripped the paper off both sides and I kind of chamfered the edges. It's funny because a week or two after building these, Wylock put out his ruined corner video, and this base that I made first was basically the same way he did in his video. It's just a piece of foam core, and it has the edge beveled. But there's one extra step that I did on all three, which I'll explain last. This one, I took the same foam core, beveled the edge, but with this one I was a little bit worried. Like, this edge is hard after the coatings I used, but it's still soft, right? Like I can, like, the bottom has Mod Podge, I can still mark it up and it's not that stiff. So I wanted to make it a little more rigid like an MDF base, but being lazy and not feeling like dealing with MDFs. So made the foam core, and then I just took a piece of cardstock. This is just the lid from a kid's craft box from my daughter's activity kit or whatever. And I cut out a bigger piece of this cardstock and I took it outside and I sprayed it with, I don't want to get up and get it. It's just the 3M, I think it's number 77 spray adhesive. It's a really potent kind of toxic crap, but it works amazingly. I wouldn't spray it right on the styrofoam because it would probably melt it a little bit, but I sprayed it on the cardstock, brought it inside, stuck the foam core to it. It bonds really, really well. And then once that was on there, I just cut out the cardstock to fit the base, and then did a coating on it that I'll explain in a second. This last one, I actually decided just to base it on one of these pieces. It was literally just, I built it off this. I actually just had a square of this and I started stacking and gluing right onto this. And then again, just beveled the edges and got this bit of a hill. And this one doesn't have any cardstock on or anything, but with the material being thicker, I'm happy with how stiff it is. I actually think I like this one the best, just in terms of ease of use versus how durable it is. So anyway, on all three of these, after I needed to protect them, this one's edge was really brittle. This one had a seam between the foam core and the, between the foam core and the cardstock. This one was a little bit more secure, and I wasn't as worried, but still vulnerable. So what I did was did the old kind of Wargamer technique, and I took some acrylic latex caulking. I thinned it down quite a bit, like almost like a 50-50 mix between water and caulking. It took a long time to mix because it doesn't really want to break down and mix into water, but eventually it did. I added some white glue, which is kind of probably unnecessary, but hey, just add some glue just in case. Added white glue, and then I added a whole bunch of sand. Probably, if the ratio of maybe 2 to 3 sand versus the caulking mix, and then I mixed in some brown and black paint, mixed the whole thing together into this very thick kind of paste with sand in it, and I just brushed it on all the bases, used it to blend any seams, and I let that stuff stiffen up, and man, it's hard. It is really, really great. Like this on just foam core, this edge is really, really thin, and it's quite hard. So I'm really happy with that. From now on, no matter what kind of base I put things on, I'm probably going to give it a coating and that stuff. And that's something I'm going to do a video on, focusing just on that, because honestly, it is a really easy thing to make and it is great. So once those were based, like I said, I gave everything a coat of Mod Podge. I gave everything a second coat of Mod Podge with black paint mixed in, and then I moved on to painting. This one I tried to experiment a bit. I wanted to get away from the grays. It's in the direction I want to go, but let's just say that my sculpting skills are better than my painting skills, but I'm getting there. Once that was done, I flocked the bases with some, just woodland scenics, fine turf, glued in some little bushes and whatnot, and some of them I added a bit of, pretty sure I did on this one, yeah, bit of grass, nice little details. And then on these two, I kind of did some moss, kind of traveling up the walls. See if it'll focus on that. Come on. There we go. So basically all I did was I took some very, very watered down white glue and I brushed it on where I wanted it, and then I sprinkled on my flock and then tipped it off and blew it off, and I thought it looked really good. On this one here, I actually, come on, get in there, focus. I painted on along the mortar lines, so it kind of looks like that moss, ivy, whatever it is, crawling up the sides. And I think as far as just like D&D craft terrain goes, that's pretty high quality and pretty nice. It's not perfect and as good as professional modeling or diorama stuff, they tend to go through extra lengths of not using flock and doing different stuff and whatever. But I think for the cost and ease of this was pretty darn effective. So, okay guys, I think that is about all I want to cover in terms of a quick rundown on this project. Please let me know if you like this format. Don't worry, it will not replace the tutorial format. This is something that I would like to do in addition to that, so that I can get you guys some more content more regularly. So if you like it, let me know. This is a format that I can probably better address some of the requests you guys make, because I get a lot of requests for different tutorials and I just can't, I don't have the time to do them all, and some of them are not conducive to straightforward tutorials. So if there's things you want to know about and you think it would be okay in this kind of format, let me know. And you know what, if on these projects you have a question that's very specific to these, let me know in the comments, and maybe I can do another little video talking about just one of the specific techniques. Okay guys, as usual, make sure you hit the like button for me and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and check the description for the link to the Black Magic Craft Facebook page and head over there. You can actually scroll through the pictures of all the different stuff that I've built over the past year or two, and if there's something that jumps out there that you would like me to talk about in this format, let me know in the comments. Okay guys, thanks for watching and sticking with me through that ramble. Until next time, peace.